Of course, protein shakes are part of training for many athletes. Actually, it's a clear-cut case because very few of us get the amounts of protein our bodies need through our diet. There is always a rumor that too much protein can cause kidney damage, which naturally unsettles athletes. So the fact is, muscles are healthy, and because word has now gotten around, the number of recreational athletes who train their muscles is steadily increasing, and of course it is also a fact. Muscles look beautiful. Of course. From a medical perspective, I can of course support this. Muscles are healthy, they are good. Many athletes also use protein powder, protein shakes, and protein bars. But you often hear warnings that too much protein would attack the kidneys. And you also hear that the number of young patients who require dialysis due to protein shakes is supposedly increasing. Today we'll check whether that's true. But what is also very important, usually sick people are going to the doctor. So in other words, when they have a problem. Just imagine if I suddenly had 10 young people with kidney problems due to too many protein shakes, let's say 10 people per year, and in the past that might not have been the case, then that leads to these conclusions. Firstly, that is an initially alarming trend and observation of mine. And secondly, of course, that's 10 too many. But what do I mean? This fact alone says nothing about how dangerous or how safe the trend towards more proteins and higher protein consumption actually is. As a doctor, I usually see the sick, the affected, not the healthy ones. In contrast, the fitness influencers or the manufacturers of protein shakes usually only see the healthy people, those where everything is going great, who make nice videos telling people that they should drink more. But they don't have the sick people sitting with them, so they might stop ordering at some point. That's why I think it's very important that it's absolutely wrong and disrespectful to accuse medical colleagues of having no idea or not being up to date because they made the observation and also publicly state the observation that more young people are suffering from kidney damage due to high protein intake have. If that's the case for them, if they've discovered that, in contrast to the past with these 10 patients as an example who are now there, then it's also appropriate to say it like that, and I had to say that now. But now some facts. Hello, my name is Dr. Tobias Weigel, and with my YouTube channel, I would like to make a contribution to providing medically understandable and correct information about illnesses, the causes of these illnesses, and what you can do about them. Exercise, sport, and nutrition are, of course, crucial cornerstones. And if you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to my channel. I'll go back to my opening statement because muscles are really healthy. After the age of 30, we lose about 1% of our total muscle mass every year, and we should do everything we can to keep this muscle for as long as possible. For many people, protein shakes are their first introduction to the world of nutritional supplements. Another completely different aspect, I'll get to that in a moment. Whether bought ready-made at the gym or in the supermarket or mixed yourself with protein powder and milk or water, protein bars, protein shakes, whatever. For many of us, the shake is a must after training, for example. And especially for strength athletes, it revolves very, very much around the topic of protein intake, proper nutrition, the mass phase, and the definition phase. According to Statista, 19% of all those surveyed use a protein shake every day. Then there are over 40% who regularly drink one of the shakes to simply give their body a little more protein than usual. And these are not just strength athletes, not bodybuilders. But as I mentioned previously, as the number of users increases, so does the number of voices and also apparently the number of patients that you really come across in practice who take protein shakes and have kidney damage. And now I'll mention some keywords like uric acid, creatinine, kidney stones, kidney weakness, and much more. All of these keywords are often used. Why should I even drink protein shakes? The general question, of course, is, do you really need to eat such a high protein diet? And also the question, what might happen in 5, 10, 15 years when many people actually start having problems with their organs after a long protein-rich diet? We don't know everything yet. But back to the topic of nutrition specifically. In the last few decades, the good old food pyramid that many of us probably remember from childhood has basically been turned upside down. The basis of bread, processed grain products, etc. is now proven to be a source of unnecessary carbohydrates. These unnecessary carbohydrates can even be counterproductive. So very important. There are good carbohydrates, there are bad carbohydrates, and not all calories are the same. These are also things that I keep saying, especially certain types of grains or varieties, of course that's not good. Body fat is increased because these foods contain a lot of calories, which are then simply stored away as fat, and at the same time have relatively few micronutrients and other things. At the same time, the importance of proteins has increased in recent years. The rule of thumb is, and this is my recommendation, that active athletes need around 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and very active athletes even need up to 2 grams. If you weigh around 60 to 80 kilos, that's between 120 and 160 grams of protein per day. 200 grams of chicken breast has 40 grams. A glass of milk has 6 grams, and an egg white has 7 grams. So you see, more is required. We need much more. And protein shakes are ideal for this, at least at first glance. Do protein shakes damage my kidneys? The fact is, firstly, too many proteins can be stored as excess energy, as fat deposits. Excess calories makes you fat. Briefly about the limits, I said 1.5 to a maximum of 2 grams. The German Nutrition Society says 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. That's a bit too little. Point 2, the excess protein is normally excreted in the urine. But, and I'll get to that in a moment, the answer to the question is for now quite clear. No. So it is as follows. As long as you don't overdo it, and you don't have any pre-existing conditions, too many protein shakes are not unhealthy. And that's it. You sometimes can't imagine how many some people really take because they take an extraordinary amount. So anyone who drinks 3 or 4 protein shakes a day and also eats a lot of meat, i.e. completely different sources of protein, will have a very high intake of protein over the long term. And then things can become complicated or even harmful for the kidneys. So the problem, of course, lies in the amount and pre-existing conditions that you may have. And that's often where the problem lies. Who knows whether his kidneys might be a little diseased? Maybe it's genetic that they don't function properly. Otherwise, you can say, in general, protein shakes alone in moderation are absolutely harmless to the kidneys and, apart from perhaps flavors and a few other ingredients, in principle only contain what we would consume through food anyway. You might get a little bit of digestive problems, bloating, whatever, but they're not really harmful to our kidneys. A general warning against protein shakes is absolute nonsense and should of course be viewed that way by medical professionals, or rather viewed in a more differentiated manner. But again, the crowd does it, and there are always 1 or 2 people who just really think a lot helps a lot. And there is even more to this statement. Do protein shakes damage my kidneys? And that brings us to the next question. Is protein in high quantities safe for the body? I already mentioned that. In addition to the protein from shakes, we often also consume protein from nature without noticing. Also, in many lentils, beans, mushrooms, for example, even spinach, there is less protein than, of course, in meat and fish, but there is still something in there. That can be a whole lot altogether. That's why it makes a lot of sense at this point to actually take a look at studies that have dealt with this topic, and there are actually a lot of them now. Let's start with this one, for example, super interesting. It was basically found here that a very protein-rich diet, i.e. not protein shakes at all, a very protein-rich diet can lead to kidney function deteriorating over time. There is still a clear difference between people with healthy kidneys and impaired kidneys. So that is very crucial. Keyword, previous illnesses. And here's the problem again. You often don't know this, especially as a young person. I'll explain the difference later. What is the upper limit for protein? Now again, it is stated in this study on rats. This is an animal model, I know, but still, first of all, this study on rats. It became apparent that the right balance in nutrition is an important point. The study only gives an idea of what this balance should look like. It was proven in animals that an even distribution, i.e. around 35% of energy from protein, led to kidney damage in healthy rats. By the way, the normal protein content is around 15%. This is much less and does not lead to noticeable kidney damage. However, the increase in protein intake due to the significant increase in supply in this study led to enlarged kidneys and further unpleasant measurement results within the test period. In this case, it was around 1.5 years, which is quite a long time for studies on animals. That is also crucial. This is an animal study, but a long period of time and extremely high protein intake. So, although animal studies are rarely one-to-one transferable to us humans, I am aware of that. This shows the danger of a gross overdose of protein over a long period of time. And this can even damage a healthy kidney in the long term. And there is an increased risk of kidney stones if you eat too much protein on a permanent basis. Keyword again, uric acid, protein, kidney stones, kidney weakness, or perhaps even dialysis. This is in stark contrast to this study, in which the participants even took in more than 3 grams a day for a year, i.e. for a really long time, or in another study by the same scientists, even almost 4.5 grams without the kidneys being damaged. And 4.5 grams is really a lot if you do it permanently. However, these statements only apply to people with healthy kidneys, which is crucial. Even if the study here suggests that even an unnatural protein-heavy diet does not cause any immediate damage to health, we should still, logically, maintain a healthy balance in our diet and life. That is my recommendation. Therefore, 1.5 to 2, a maximum of 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, and these 2 grams for people who really do a lot of weight training and not more, even if these studies suggest that it is also harmless above that. But once again, we don't know whether the kidney is perhaps already a little damaged, impaired for genetic reasons, or perhaps because you are taking medication or because of age. It is also called a balanced diet precisely because we maintain the right balance between macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, and not willfully consume too much protein. And in this study here, I would like to show that the amount of 0.8 to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight was examined and classified as harmless for our body. It can therefore be said that around 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight is not harmful to the kidneys, even over a long period of time. More than 2 grams a day have only been tested over shorter periods of time and only on athletes, but have not caused any damage to the kidneys. Protein in case of kidney damage. Caution is advised because if the kidneys are damaged, many doctors even recommend reducing protein intake in order to prevent and slow down the progression of possible kidney weakness and renal insufficiency. Very important. Why is that? Because it has something to do with uric acid, purines, etc. Kidney stones. However, the body is still naturally dependent on protein, especially the essential amino acids, which it cannot naturally produce itself. All in all, even if you have problems with your kidneys, you should still consume between 0.6 and 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight on a daily basis. After all, protein is still urgently needed in the body, even if the kidneys are damaged. And that's why this 0.8 grams is also the limit of the German Nutrition Society. Because, so to speak, that is the absolutely safe limit. Nothing should happen if you take this amount. How can I find the right amount? To determine whether you need the additional protein from the shakes at all, just take a look at your diet, what you eat. Keep the following in mind. If you eat a lot of meat or fish-based protein sources and at the same time also rely on plant-based sources such as lots of lentils, nuts and other things, then you should be able to cover your daily requirements really well through your diet alone. Protein shakes are not a must. You don't necessarily need it. However, a protein shake is not a bad idea for many people, especially after sport. Simply out of convenience because it is the right time to take protein after sports, but you might not eat a protein-rich diet right afterward, because you might go to work and then of course you can quickly supply the muscles with proteins naturally. You can decide for yourself whether this has convinced you. However, it was also crucial for me to emphasize and explain once again that, firstly, statements from doctors who have the experience should be taken seriously and not somehow labeled as ignorant or bad. If you make the experience in your practice, then this is the case, and there are always people who simply take a lot and think that a lot really helps a lot. Sometimes you can't believe what you experience. I have seen some special cases already, to put it this way. And thirdly, this is also always important, you may not even know whether your own kidneys are already a little damaged. This can also be the case if you otherwise look fit, healthy, strong, etc. from the outside. You don't know what's going on with the organs. This can also be genetic, for example. So now you can comment on the video and let me know what you think. Watch out for signs of too much protein intake. And if you would like to know more about how you can tell if you are eating too much protein, you are welcome to write it under the video. Thank you very much and stay loyal to me.